Welcome to Sim Sundays presented by Gridfinder. You know, your weekly dose of sim racing chat and exclusive interviews. This week we got a great guest, and I'll let Tom introduce our guest. But first, we are sponsored by Trak Racer. So, you know, if you're looking to upgrade your sim rig, get off that desk mounted setup, go ahead and go to trakracer.com. That's TRAK, not with a C. So, Tom, how you been this week, man?
I've been good, actually.
Yeah?
I've been a bit ill. I actually lost my voice on Thursday, and my first thought, obviously, when I was
Oh
sat
no,
there
Sim Sundays.
nearly dying on a Thursday, I was like, oh, I hope I make it to Sunday for the podcast. But
Well, tell us who we have on the show today to talk to.
so I'm excited for this week, as I always am every week. We have a sim racing motorsport YouTube content creator and esports driver. Synergy right there.
Perfect.
Aidan Millwood. Welcome to the show, Aidan.
Hello there. It's nice to be on a podcast. It's a little bit weird chatting to other people about stuff that isn't real world motorsport for a change. It's quite nice.
That's funny you say that. I've kind of stalked you on the internet today, looked back at a bunch of your videos on YouTube, and I noticed you started 9 years ago on YouTube, technically. But your sim racing stuff started about 5 years ago. Now, I did go back and I watched some of those guitar covers that you had there because, you know, you sort oldest to newest. And I was like, well, I'm curious now. What you guys did miss before the show is a nice a cappella performance by Tom and Aidan on some fabulous songs from around the world. But anyway, Tom, you also stalked him a little bit today, and you said that you found a specific video, and then you did the cardinal sin of going back in time and then commenting on something that's 10 years old, but we won't talk about that. Yeah. What is the video that you actually watched? Because I'm curious if I saw this one as well.
Well, do you know what? I kind of went through that same thought process as that you just said, where, you know, you look at, you know, if you're like, I don't know, it's like a friend from school and you're looking through their like profile
Double
and you're
tap
like,
the picture, you're like, no!
Yeah, you didn't realize that you've actually done this like 10-15 minutes now, and you're back into 2007 and you double tap, you're like, no, my God, I've just liked a picture from 2000. But this isn't a regular occurrence, by the way. This is not something that happens to me often. But I kind of went through that same process where I saw this video that Aidan put out and I was like, oh, that is brilliant. That has really evoked certain memories. Actually, a lot of them have, and we'll kind of go on to that. But this particular one, I was like, oh, God, I feel like it's the summer of 2008. I'm between my GCSEs and A-levels. I haven't got a care in the world. And I'm listening to Yellow Card, the band, because I was a bit of a like indie, emo rock kind of guy. And Aidan did a video doing the electric guitar part to Yellow Card, which is not what I was expecting to find. It was a very different like genre of videos to when we went back for the Chris Hay episode. I went back to see his first videos about mods. I was like, oh, I wonder how Aidan kind of eased himself into this motorsport sim racing world, and it turns out it was via the medium of Yellow Card.
It was actually part of my my university degree. That I thought, well, if I'm going to be recording stuff for my degree, I might as well put stuff on YouTube because then I've got a reference point for everything there. And I did the 3 videos I did. And then I just never touched it again. And then when I got back into sim racing, sort of end of 2016, it sort of became, you know, completely abandoned the music stuff, and then just starting to upload the sim racing stuff. And that's, but sometimes I'd get like a comment or a reminder that video was uploaded, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did that, didn't I?
Well, I kind of like the honesty of it. I like the honesty of it. You know, it kind of goes against the airbrushing culture of today where, you know, when you get to a certain size, maybe a lot of people will go back through their back catalogue and their old Facebook posts and their old Instagram posts and get rid of the ones that maybe aren't on brand now.
Right,
I kind of like
cleanse themselves a little bit.
Exactly, right. But you've left it up because you're like, well, this was kind of what I did. And I also noticed that your video stream on YouTube is kind of punctuated with things which are outside of motorsport, but you're interested in. So it's very much a channel about you and your love of things, which 90% of it is motorsport and sim racing, but there's also other little bits thrown in there.
Yeah, because at one point I did want to actually join the RAF, and they wouldn't take me because I'm asthmatic. so there's that one video where I'm blowing stuff up in an F-16. I also like I like obscure pop culture references from like The Simpsons and Star Trek and Star Wars. So I try and put those into things as well, and just the stuff that, I mean, there was actually a series called Assetto Corsa Does Top Gear, where I tried to do the sort of clowning around that they did in Top Gear
so much fun
in sim racing. So it's, like the sort of stuff that Jimmy Broadbent does. It's like, all right, let's drive a giraffe around the Nordschleife for that kind of thing, and then whatever the other sort of weird and wonderful stuff that, because that's the great thing about sim racing, is that people will, like the lawnmowers for Assetto Corsa, the drift bus, and that sort of stuff, and you just think, okay, how fast can I get this around a track sideways? Or it's the sort of stuff that as a 14-year-old watching Top Gear, you wanted to do for a living, because when you're 14, that's 14? The best job in the world.
I watch Grand Tour now and I go, I want to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Like playing Battleship with a crane where you drop the cars on the other cars.
Yes.
It's fabulous. I would love to do
Just watching stuff blow up. It's great. It's like,
exactly.
the money, no object. There you go. Blow some stuff up. Love it.
Right. So you had that gap in your YouTube career, which is about 4 years. What made you say, you know what, sim racing, I love it so much, I'm going to start really trying to put effort into YouTube? Because once you started that 5 years ago, I mean, you're pretty solid throughout time. You just kept going and going. So what was it about sim racing that kind of made you go, you know what, I want this to be my YouTube channel. I want to go serious here.
Because I started out mid-90s or so I would have been like 4 or 5 when my dad got the original Jeff Crammond Grand Prix and brought that home. So me and my brother were playing that on the keyboard, AZ, comma, dot as your inputs and things like that. Progressed through sort of on and off. Then I sort of abandoned sim racing and racing games, went more towards shooters and flight simulators and things like that. And it was
okay.
I was actually sort of semi-bedridden with an illness, and just one of those things that YouTube just throws up at you. And it was I think it was like Formula Sim Racing or something like that, one of the long time open wheel leagues in R Factor 2. And I was like, oh, is that where this is where it's got to now? Okay. And then just sort of watch more and more and more and more, and then sort of end of 2016 when I was finally better. To this day, we don't know what the illness was. We think it was a blood infection, but it was. Oh, wow. I sort of got into it, and then just started, with that messing around in the Sims. Like, this is what you can do. Then it sort of graduated to the Chris Hay random call sign type of thing of, right, this mod's out, let's have a look at it and things like that. And then it just sort of built and built and built, and like pretty much every other sim racing content creator, as soon as COVID-19 hit, it just went and
it just took off.
Everybody's in the same sort of boat at the minute.
Yeah, isn't that a weird transition though, to think that you used to race with a keyboard and now you're sitting in like a racing seat with your gloves on and like real force feedback and the fabulous, like it feels like real. Well, at least from what I think, it feels like real car racing. Tom would have a better idea of if it feels real or not. Right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the 4KA doesn't feel like a lot of cars, if I'm being honest. One thing I did notice when I got into actual racing is that there's a lot more force feedback in my sim than there is in the real world. I think we all just assume that, the more Newton meters, the better. And I'd been doing, I don't know, like 50 to 100 laps around Donington Park in our bath on Assetto Corsa to practice every single week leading up to Donington. And I think I just assumed that, like, this thing is, front wheel drive, it's going to feel heavy and lumbersome. And so I cranked up the forward feedback to get used to it. And in my head, I was like, am I training? Like, is there a bit of like am I physically training for this race? And then I got in the 4KA and the wheel just freaking free spins around. Like, there is no weight to that thing whatsoever. Even at, like, top speed, inverted commas. There is absolutely nothing. So I think as a sim racer, you're kind of spoilt for feedback compared to a lot of cars.
I think that's because the old karting thing of, in the karting you drive through your arse, don't you? So unless you've got butt kickers and motion rig and all that stuff, there's the only place you're going to get some sort of feedback is through the old hands.
Yeah.
I think that might be. But without these high-powered direct drives, we wouldn't have 100% force feedback challenges. So trade-offs are there.
I mean, I had to try it because anyone who's ever gotten a direct drive wheel, they're like, okay, I have to try the 100%, at least on the one that I have. And it's unnecessarily strong. And then it starts to make you think, because like I have the DD1 and then there's the DD2, which is even more force feedback. And you get to a certain point where you just go, why would you ever want more than X or Y? Because I only run my DD1 at like maybe 10% typically. Because like for me, sim racing is more casual, and I don't want to be working up a sweat fighting with the racing wheel as I'm turning around the track. Kind of like Tom in a couple episodes ago, we ended with the classic cars. I think it was with GP laps, and you were like sweating at the end because you had your force feedback up way too high. And I'm like, yeah, you got to turn that way down. So
yes, I did.
So it's kind of funny that you say that real cars, obviously when you're racing, you just spin the wheel around and it's fine.
Yeah. It's completely different. I'd built up this impression of what it was going to feel like for real. But I mean, one thing I haven't done is done sim racing competitively. Now, Aidan, you have. How did you get into competitive sim racing, and how long did it take you to get to the crescendo of your sim racing career at the All Stars race?
Yeah.
That was so. I had an email probably mid 2018 from Ed Trevelyan Johnson, who runs Zan Show, asking me if I wanted to do the Virtual Endurance Championships season finale at Le Mans. And at that time, my internet wasn't particularly good. I think I had 0.7 up. Poor student internet, and just never bothered to upgrade it.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, is my internet going to hold up and all that stuff? So I said, look, I don't think I'm ready for it yet. Then a year later, he emailed me again saying, well, how about commentating on it? And I said, yeah, okay, I'll commentate. That'll be fun. And then off the back of that, managed to do the original R Factor 2 Le Mans that they did when they released the Le Mans track. Then it sort of went quiet a little bit. And then Ed asked me if I wanted to join Zan Show. So I did the Virtual Endurance Championship sort of rookie tests and things like that. Then the pandemic hit, and they were doing all the replacement races and things like that. And he called me up, like an actual phone call, towards the end of the first season of that I know Jimmy had done it, and Steve Brown had done it as well. And he said, do you want to be a part of the final round? I said, what, commentating with Jack Nicholls? Yeah, that'd be cool. He goes, no, driving. And I'm like, what? And he said, like, here's the details, put me in the WhatsApp group and the Discord and all that stuff, and just sort of went out, and I just did it for the banter, really. It's like, okay, I'll have the experience of being on the grid with Lewis Hamilton's brother. So that in itself is, and I think Juan Pablo Montoya's son did it, that race, and Andy Prio's son was also on the grid, amongst others, and things like that. And then I got another phone call, or message, email, whatever, saying, how do you feel about doing season 2? And I was like, yeah, okay. So we did the first round at, I think it was Malaysia. So Sepang, the Malaysian Grand Prix track. And that was an absolute carnage fest, but I enjoyed it because, Tom Ingram's on the grid, and, other people that I, watched and things like that. Then we did the second round at Estoril, where I punted Tatiana Calderon off at the final lap because I'd been wiped out by Harrison Newey. I know I'm name dropping a lot here, but it's just like when you're behind the wheel, just like that's Nicky Team and Charlie Eastwood and all these other stuff. And then Zandvoort came around, and they changed the rules because you'd got 40 pro racing drivers on a grid, all trying to fight their way to the front because they're super competitive racing drivers. So they changed the rules for that race, saying, okay, only the top 32 will be reversed. So I qualified 32nd, just out of pure luck of the draw. So I remember tweeting it saying, "Oh, reverse grid pole, no pressure," and then somehow won it, racing against Juan Manuel Correa, who at that time was racing with just his left leg because he was still recovering from the Antoine Hubert crash, which was just like you driving around Zandvoort going, he's only driving with one leg. How is he doing that? At the same time going, I'm not losing to a guy who can only use one leg. It's just like that competitiveness takes over. Somehow won the race, and then I'm adding it up, and I'm like, this was only my third organised league race event, and only my sixth race, and I'm like, doesn't matter what I do now, I will always have that thing. And the video's still up on YouTube, and you can see me coming across the line. I'm still in my gaming chair with the wheel bolted to the desk, and I'm coming across the line like, effing and jeffing as I come across the line and all that stuff.
That's
and
amazing.
It's like I think I peaked too early, if that makes any sense. But it's just like the experience of being able to do that as just like, okay, maybe I am at least half decent at this kind of thing. And I'm not as good as Jarno Opmeer and those guys, but it's still incredible to think that so many different sim racers got that not just me, but so many other sim racers got that opportunity to go.
Sure.
We can hang with the real guys, and it shows how, because if you're really good at Madden or really good at FIFA, you're not going to be Lionel Messi or Tom Brady. If you get good at sim racing, then you can actually go on a real track, because the skills are a lot more transferable compared to other types of online gaming. So it kind of shows that sim racing isn't just a video game. It is a little bit more in depth than that, and a little bit more real in that sense.
Yeah, like racing lines and breaking points and all that stuff. That's interesting you went into that, because I was going to ask you, how in the world did you get the confidence to be like, you know what, I'm good enough now to enter some big races? But it sounds like you just got the call and you said, yeah, sure, why not?
I literally fell into it because of what I'd been doing online.
That's amazing.
And to have that little bit of smuggery to go, yeah, I was the only YouTuber to beat the pros and all that stuff. That's also nice. But I know that if I go on track with Mitchie Hoyer and even like some of the other YouTubers, like the guys who've got bigger followings, I like Dave Campbell kick my head in on a virtual track. So yeah, it's I just ended up being in the right place at the right time, really. But yeah, if I hadn't been given that opportunity, I wouldn't have been able to make the most of it and run with it.
That's amazing, because a lot of sim racers, like me included, so like I said in the beginning, I'm a little bit more of a casual sim racer, right? But there's a certain point to where you want to hit that next level. So you want to get on the grid with some actual racers, or you want to enter that next level of racing competition. And I mean, based on your experience, it almost sounds like the best way to do it is just to go and try it and see what happens, because you were on the grid with some amazing racers and you took it.
Yeah. I mean, like there was the Legends race as well that had like Jenson Button and Tony Kanaan and guys like that. But even still, you look at someone like Tom Ingram, who is currently he's now third in the British Touring Car Championship this year. But it's just like, that guy's an active driver. That's the son of the guy that designed my favourite Formula One car of all time. That's the son of my favourite F1 driver of all time. That's the Charlie Eastwood and Nicky Team went and won Le Mans later that year. Stoffel Van Dorn and Esteban Gutierrez and Anthony Dawson, who competed in Formula One. So to have those names around you, and then the guy that just uploads videos to an internet every so often, it's like, I think some of them were like, who is this guy? It's like, what are you racing in this year? I'm like, I'm just a guy that puts stuff on the internet.
This race right here, this is what I'm racing in.
Yeah. So
it's a point I've made a few times, how sim racing and real racing is far more comparable than any other esports, right? You are literally sitting doing the same thing with your feet and your arms as you would be in the real world of racing. And now you've made a really interesting point that's given me quite a good idea, I think. I think we should create an event that could create the stats to back up what we're saying here. When you mentioned Madden and FIFA, how people who are good at FIFA aren't necessarily good at playing football, perhaps we need to do some kind of esports versus real world tournament where we'll have sim racers racing real world drivers at real world driving. We'll have some FIFA players playing football in the real world against, say, Man United, or actually probably bad example right now, but you
Don't
get my
beat
point.
them.
You get my point. And then have like the UFC games, the esports players on the UFC games fighting in the ring against like actual UFC fighters. And then we could see which of these sports is more comparable. And more than anything else, it would be quite entertaining. I feel like we're onto something there.
It would get good views, wouldn't it? Watching Brock Lesnar kick the living daylights out of.
Well, I think
Kyle.
That's kind of ridiculous sounding.
Kyle.
But now they're doing the thing where I'm sure a bunch of people have seen this, where streamers or YouTube content creators go in the boxing ring and fight each other now.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And there was even fights this weekend. And I mean, I guess it's a little bit different than like two content creators going up against each other and then the Brock Lesnar walking in the ring versus some dude from YouTube who's got 2,000 subscribers, like one punch and then there it is. That was...
I've never watched a snuff film before, but
No.
you could get some like CS:GO esports players actually going into like armed combat with some Navy SEALs and just
with live ammo.
They actually did that on.
Like
we
Hunger
had
Games.
G4 TV here in the States. I don't know if you had G4 overseas, but they did a paintball match where it was the Navy SEALs versus a bunch of gamers, and of course, well, I'm sure you can guess the outcome of that event. But it was funny because the Navy SEALs didn't care at all. They're like, yeah, we'll be able to manage as we get out there, and the streamers or not the streamers, but the players making all kinds of strategies, planning everything out perfectly, and then it was like instant done, just instant over.
Yeah.
Very interesting content though. So you also commentate. So another thing that is kind of interesting with a bunch of sim racers is maybe the sim racer doesn't want to necessarily race, but commentating is something that kind of catches their eye. I'm even included here because I think it would be a lot of fun to commentate a race. The problem I have, though, is I don't know enough about every single track. Like, I don't know every corner name. I don't know all of the stats of the cars and everything. How did you first get into commentating in the world of sim racing?
That came through the email I got from Ed Trevelyan Johnson back in the sort of the summer of 2019, which was like, do you fancy giving it a go? I was like, yeah, all right, I'll give it a go and do 3, 4, 5 hours and then do the final few hours as well. And I enjoyed it, but then sort of May of 21, I caught the dreaded C19, and that's still affecting me even now with the fatigue from it. So it's just like I've got no concentration anymore to do it. I have got back into it through doing the stuff that GP Labs is doing, and that's just a lot of fun.
Cool.
But I did go to Denmark to commentate on a LAN event. And we were talking about it there, saying, well, back in the day, the likes of, Richard Hammond started on hospital radio, and Clarkson started at the local paper, and all these other people started doing, bit like reporting for their local papers and local hospital radios and stuff like that. But now you look at, Jack Nichols, who commentates on the BBC's F1 coverage. He started doing sim racing commentary.
Did he? I didn't know.
Yeah, and now you've got people like George Morgan, who's now a pro commentator from doing sim racing and F1 esports commentary, and Lewis McGlade's doing British. So I think it's actually called GB3 now, and GB4. That's been done off the back of sim racing. Chaz Draycott's done it as well. So now you can see that the broadcasters of the future are going to be picked up from YouTube as opposed to going through the old way.
That's amazing because we're talking about how close actual racing is to real world motorsport and driving, and how you can, maybe not in a car, but you can kind of compete and you have the general knowledge of everything. So you also get that in commentary So like all the knowledge that you would get from, let's say, Imola, which is the track we're going to be running on our track day today later on, once you know all the turns and the facts and everything like that, that directly transfers over to real world motorsport without even thinking about it. That's
It's
pretty
like
cool.
Tamburello at Imola or on Assetto Corsa or iRacing or iFactor 2 is Tamburello in real life. It's just that
Yeah.
I sort of know what the F2004 does in Assetto Corsa, but I would have to be Michael Schumacher or Rubens Barrichello to know what it does in real life through there.
Well, there's an interesting thing that Jeff McConey on the last episode said, and he's actually been consulted by real NASCAR teams on setups and things because the real world and the sim racing side are so similar. So he used an example of one of the setups just being really off, like the right-hand side, he just maxed out the springs or whatever, and I'm probably butchering what he actually said, but you know what I'm saying, where
Yeah.
he had a setup that just seemed really off and really odd for a track. He goes and asks the actual people who do setups for the real world racing, and they're like, no, that's accurate. That's exactly how we do it too.
Yeah, it's like with rFactor 2, they've just brought out the BTCC stuff. And it's like, I don't know how to set up a front-wheel drive racing car. I don't know what a front-wheel... But then you go and ask someone who's actually done it, like Mike Epps or Tom Ingram or Colin Turkington or whoever, and they just go, yeah, that sounds about right as to what we would do with it, but try doing this, this, and this and see if that works. But with these sim setups, someone's going to find some sort of way of dodging the physics engine. So it's like the Assetto Corsa stuff with the maximum tow giving you a speed boost, or
the iRacing
reverse rake or whatever it was they were doing, and
I think I saw stuff recently on Gran Turismo. It's like if you tap the wall around one of the corners on some of the tracks, like you get speed boosts on that too. Like you're right, there we'll always be able to find something in sim racing that is completely unrealistic because it's just taking advantage of a bug in the code or something like that. Which obviously there's no such thing. Unless we're all living in the Matrix. There's no bugs in the code in real world, right?
We might be, you never know.
You never know, right? So when you first...
I was just saying, there are parallels to the real world where the teams will kind of interpret the rules.
Oh,
maybe not exactly in the spirit of those rules, but can find loopholes within them in order to gain
the double diffuser, isn't it?
That's kind of the same thing, right? Finding the advantage on the grass in iRacing and the double diffuser, they sit in a similar category.
I'd agree with that.
Even though they were told not to do it. Whereas they just went, doesn't say here I can't, so... But we could debate, or we'd run out of time if we were talking about the whole grass thing.
So when you first started commentating, when you got that call and you were like, yeah, I'll give it a go, why not? How did you go in with some kind of strategy, or did you just kind of go and shoot from the hip? And because a lot of people would like to give commentating a try, but they're a little too shy, or they're a little too scared that they're going to mess it up when they're live.
Well, I was doing what the Americans would call color. So I just basically coasted off the back of somebody else and just went, that's probably not how you would, or the car would typically do this. But I did print out an entry list, and I found a spotter's guide, and it's like, well, I know who that guy is. I know who that guy is. I can talk about that guy. I can talk about the track at least. I can talk about the different cars and how the performance of them is. But after a while, I mean, like I prefer doing sprint stuff. So stuff that's like Formula One levels of setup. So it's like, okay, 25 laps, 30 laps, 40 laps. Anything over 2 hours, I'm just like really struggling for stuff to talk about now. But some people can do it. I think it's just one of those things that once you've had the practice and had the experience, it's probably one of those things that you're not going to be good at straight away.
Yeah.
If you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, then you're sort of like, right, I know to stop talking here. I know to talk here, because I think a lot of people's assumptions about commentary come from, at least in motorsport, come from watching Murray Walker, where it's constant turn to 11 and all that stuff. And you can see at some commentators coming through at the minute, they are kind of David Croft clones, kind of Murray Walker clones, or trying to be Crofty or Murray, and it just doesn't work out. It's like trying to be Metallica or something like that. It's like we've already got a Metallica you can't
We
can't really
don't need
copy
a
what they
brand
do.
new carbon copy of them, right?
Yeah, we don't need another. Well, I mean, it's like how Oasis were a Beatles clone and still are referred to as a Beatles clone. It's like we've already had the Beatles. We don't need another one. So it's as much as a balancing act as well as being able to give everybody the right information at the right time. Talk about what the camera is actually looking at rather than, oh, so and so is only now a tenth behind the guy in 15th or whatever. It's like, well, we're not watching that. We're watching this 5-way scrap for the lead or whatever. So it's to balance it and have it come off as convincing. So it's like if you closed your eyes, you were watching a real broadcast. It's really difficult to do, and I don't know how some people do it. So I just do it. I do it for a bit of fun rather than doing it as a attempted career path, as it were.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You've kind of got a broad reach into sim racing. You seem to do. You haven't put yourself in a box, right? So you've done pro level driving as an esports driver. You've inverted commas. Your inverted commas, not mine. Yeah. You've made YouTube content, and you've also done commentary. So that's quite broad within the sim racing space. Which do you prefer, commentary, sim racing, or content creation?
Kind of like the driving, because that's what I started doing the channel for. I kind of fell into the whole real world of motorsport stuff, which I'm known as that guy rather than doing the sim stuff, because that's what I properly love doing. Mm-hmm. So when I was doing the Assetto Corsa Competizione stuff with Lawrence de Soswa's community, which I've sort of moved away from because I did 20 weeks straight of that, and I was just like, yeah, wow. I think I'm a bit GT3'd out now. So I'm currently looking for something a bit more open wheel to do, which, funnily enough, he's actually putting on next month. There's some F4 stuff so I'll get in on that. I've lost my train of thought now, but it's I kind of like the driving stuff because that's what I started out doing, and I kind of want to be like, hey, I can do this stuff as well. It's just finding people to watch it, really, because obviously you've got other people that have got that market sewn up. So another one. So it's like there's probably not many of my community watching this right now because they're here for something else. But the stuff I do on sim racing, it does get a decent return now. Now they've sort of figured it out. Mm-hmm. They try and make it relevant to that other stuff. So like the stuff I've been doing where it's like, what would a modern Le Mans car look like at Le Mans if it never changed? The stuff I did during the 2020 F1 season where it was like, okay, we're going to do 2 races at Silverstone this year, and people going, oh, just go back to Brands Hatch, just go back to Donny. And it's like, okay, let's test that. All right, 57-second laps around Brands Hatch. Yeah, maybe not. So it's kind of like branched out to that. So what would give people an idea of what a modern F1 car or a modern GT car or a modern Le Mans car would look like at a track that's never hosted Formula One, or a track that used to host Formula One or used to do this or that kind of thing. Because a lot of people do have that mentality of, oh, just do this. But it's not quite that simple. But if it gets people thinking and it's like, oh, well, what would it look like if they went there or did that, then it kind of it gets interaction and things like that. And I think that's probably the ex-teacher in me as well, sort of trying to get people to think about things a little bit more rather than just blindly going with what they think.
Right. You mentioned there's so many people doing GT3s, or there's so many people doing sim racing content now. While sim racing isn't as popular on YouTube necessarily as, like, let's say a Call of Duty or, pick any popular video game, Fortnite, Apex Legends, whatever, right? How do you make your channel stand out? What is your idea that says, okay, this is how Aiden's channel is going to be different?
I think it's because I do put on the streams sometimes, and people jump in and they go, "Oh, this is pretty chill." So I'm just like, "Okay, I'll run with that." Because
hey, there you go.
If there's one thing I can't do, it's that. Hey guys, welcome back to right. You know how Jardier can keep it up for 24 hours straight. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I just like, right, this is me. I'm chill. I'll try and have a little bit of a chat and things like that. But I think in a saturated environment where it is very in your face. I think people do want a chilled out place to just hang out every so often. So that's the kind of vibe I've gone for. Lawrence has been able to pull it off as well. So it's I think I offer the alternative to people that are just like, especially if you've got a big streamer where it's constantly in chat, like, hey, look at me, I'm in your chat, pay me attention.
Yeah.
You know, here's 20 quid to notice me and stuff like that. And it's like people can come in and just go, so what do you think about this? And I'll be like, oh, okay, that's, give my opinion on something, and people can actually have that interaction as well, or at least try and have that interaction, because I tend to over concentrate. So I did a race at, funny enough, at Imola, where the championship was on the line, and someone, I saw the comment saying, "I've been in here for half an hour and he hasn't said anything." It's like, I'm trying to concentrate here.
There's other things going on.
Yeah, so I've yet to find the balancing act with that, but I think it is trying to offer a more chilled out environment in a sea of, turned up to 11, as it were.
Yeah, I have noticed that, because I watch streams quite often, like during the workday, I'll put something on and just kind of sift through different streamers, and there's definitely a overabundance of over the top, always excited, like every reaction they ever have is level 12, and like sometimes you just need one of those chill people where you can go in there and every once in a while you'll type a comment and they'll actually answer you, because that's another thing that's real hard with some of the big hyped up streamers, if you will.
People love the interaction, but you just can't give it to them all the time, really.
Yeah.
But if people just want to watch something where they're not being shouted at for 3.5 hours, then it's there. But that's all I've ever based the channel on is, here is a thing. If you like it, brilliant. If you don't, then no hard feelings. You'll find something eventually that you want to watch. So
it's funny because your About Me on YouTube says almost that exact quote. It's like, oh, thanks for stopping by.
Does it?
check out. Yeah, it's like, check out my videos, and if you find something you like, stick around. If you don't, sorry, can't please everyone.
If I did put on an act, it'd be found out very quickly because I would get bored of it.
Right. I sometimes wonder if streamers like let's say Dr. Disrespect, if he just like at a certain point he's like, I just got to stop. I can't be this character anymore, and I want to turn it off.
It's like those episodes of The Simpsons where Krusty the Clown's like, hey, and then as soon as the curtain drops, it sparks up a fag, and he's go away, kids. I don't want.
I don't want to talk to any of you. Right. So, what is your absolute favorite sim of? Well, let's do two. So we'll do favorite sim of all time, and then the second one will be favorite sim at the moment.
I'm going to annoy a lot of people with this one. Well, it's like you're only ever going to say the wrong answer, aren't you? I think it might have to be R Factor 2.
Okay.
Even with the issues that you inevitably have with R Factor 2, the phrase "getting R factored" constantly cropping up as your screen freezes or it just crashes, or I remember I did the Daytona 24 last year. Whereas that was Daytona or No Toner or whatever it was called, and someone put in the chat, at least R Factor 2 allows you to get into the race before it kicks you and stuff like that. But with the improvements they've done to it, the sound engine now, they actually sound like cars now. It's looking better than ever.
That's a plus.
The content that's coming through is fantastic. The competition system, it's a little bit rocky, but you can see the potential is there. It's a bit like Ferrari and Formula One. I mean, the potential is there. It's a fantastic thing, but had to go there.
You had to.
But with the BTCC stuff as well, now that's in. It's like it's very, very eclectic, and I had a lot of fun doing the Formula Challenge series last year.
There's something to be said about being a fan. Like, you love R Factor 2. There's other games that are more polished, that are probably more finished, but sometimes being a fan of the thing that's finished is boring. You're like, well, it's done. It's like, this is what we get. It's perfect. Whereas when you're a fan of something that kind of needs work, or, you can kind of grow up with over time, then you create that bigger connection. So I can understand why you would love R Factor 2 if you've gotten into it. Unfortunately, I never really dove into R Factor 2. I picked up AC and just kept with AC forever. So
I mean, AC's got that modding background that's
that's what I love
constantly
about
going. Well, what I think it was when they said that, we can't have day-night cycle because the engine won't allow it, and that little Russian kid just went, right, hold my vodka,
like,
and just
"Hold
did it. That's managed to keep it going. It's like I'm a Warsaw supporter and a Williams fan, so I'm used to disappointment every time I turn on the TV. So it's like my first competitive league race was in R Factor 2. My first commentary gig was in R Factor 2, and all that stuff. And now seeing what they're doing with virtual Le Mans, right? It's now got the official Le Mans, like the biggest sim racing event of the year now. So, and the stream they put on for that is incredible, and it will still have that reputation as being a buggy mess, but it's getting there finally.
Well, I could also see where it would hold a special place for you, giving you those opportunities as well. So you commentate in R Factor, you went to the races in R Factor. That makes sense because it's mattered more than the other sims in kind of your career, doing air quotes there because, whatever.
Well, I mean, iRacing will still be special as well because myself and two other lads, we did the iRacing Bathurst 12-hour, and I spun off with half an hour left to go and had to bang in qualifying laps for 25 minutes to get back into third place. So we got third place with about 10 minutes left, and seeing as we started from the pit lane as well, so it's like that was on stream, that was special, that was a long day that ended up being a good day. So like there will be like these moments. So I just need to find a moment in ACC, and I think I've completed the set.
There you go.
Well, I was just about to say, you've in the same way that you've explored lots of different kind of disciplines within sim racing, i.e. commentary, content creation, and actual racing. Within racing, you seem to have got to quite a high level at different games. And something I always think about sim racing is that the disciplines between, say, iRacing, R Factor, Assetto Corsa, they are so similar but dangerously different at the same time. So, you could go and do a load of laps in an F3 car in Assetto Corsa and then go do the same F3 car in the same track in iRacing, and if you drive the same way, you're going to come off the track. So as somebody who races at the level with the dedication that you do as a Zansho driver, do you have to kind of consciously reframe the environment in your head when you go from, say, iRacing to R Factor or vice versa?
Yeah, I'm probably I'm certainly not the top level, but having been in those environments and watching other people do stuff, it's like some of the other guys in the team, they'll be racing LMP2s in iRacing and then be racing BTCC cars in R Factor 2, and it's like, how? Because I tried to do a BTCC series and Formula Challenge last year I should say, and I had to drop the BTCC thing because I was trying to go through Paddock Hill in a BMW 3 Series touring car at the same gusto I would have lobbed a Formula 1 car in there. It's like,
Right.
I ended up having just constant crashes and had like the worst race event ever. And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna drop this and just focus on that because I can't go back and forwards between them, and I don't know how people like Jane Simicic and Erhan Yovsky and those guys can just jump between them. But I suppose good is good, isn't it? It's like you can just done.
Flick a switch and change up your driving style.
I just can't do it. I can only focus on one thing at a time, like a normal man.
So we're racing in ACC. We're casually throwing some laps together in ACC today.
AC.
You're right, AC. My fault. And we're in the F2004. What made you pick that car with this track?
I think the three choices I put up were Lotus Exige at Brands Hatch, Ferrari F2004 at Imola.
Yep.
And what was the other one?
The Porsche 919 at Red Bull Ring.
So the Porsche 919 that's one of my favourite racing cars ever. So it would have been nice to drive that. But I just wanted something completely random and completely different because I think was it with Lawrence you did the Nordschleife track day.
Yep.
And it's just like right, boring. Been done to death. I get invited to probably at least one charity race a year.
We did get a tip that says if we ever put Nords on any vote,
they go,
it will
yeah,
always
and
win.
I'll say something like, okay, what car and track combo is it? And it's like GT3 at Spa. I'm like, nah, that's like been done to death. Like if you're going to do a charity event, make it mad. You know, do 24 hours of Reliant Robins at Monza or something like that. It's like make it mad. It's like Spa Nordschleife GT3. They are my no-go. So I like Spa. Yeah. I like GT3s, and I occasionally like racing GT3s at Spa, but I can't do it all the time.
Yeah, like every single race.
There's just some stuff that I'm just like, no, I can't. I just like I need to be enthused about it. It's not that I don't care about the charities. I need to be enthused to give you, worth me having, or worth the your money's worth, as it were, without actually paying any money. So it's
do you guys want to actually get on the track and throw some laps together and still chit chat? Obviously, I actually forgot, Tom, that you and I did a race. I want to say, was it at Red Bull Ring where we went and raced this car? One random Wednesday night.
I think we might have done.
I completely forgot that I've driven this car because I didn't think I had yet.
This car is great. This car sounds incredible. I absolutely love it. It's
the screaming engine is just fabulous.
Right. I also find that it's quite forgiving, I think. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but it's of a lot of the cars on AC, you can save this one a lot more. Maybe it's because I've got my I probably have my aero turned up far too high, and that's why I'm lapping 4 seconds a lap slower than everyone else. But it is an incredibly satisfying car to drive.
I think it's the traction control. The fact that you can just absolutely mash the throttle coming out the other side of some of these corners and not die. So I was driving around here earlier.
It was very forgiving on my lead foot. Coming out of the chicane, especially because I will spin that chicane in most cars, at least on the first one of 5 laps that I do. Let's see.
I remember how much fuel I put in this now.
What do we got?
It is a bit slidey, this setup.
Oh, you have a setup in? Wow.
Yeah. Just one I had from ages ago. I think I downloaded it for a video where I don't know if it was one of the ones where I put like the V6 engine in the back of it or something like that.
We're just going to have to start messaging Jeff every single time we have a Sim Sundays and say, hey, send us a setup.
Yeah.
I think it's just one I grabbed off YouTube. Because if there's one thing I can't do, it's setups and hot lapping.
No matter how many times I've tried, I normally just end up with the default or something. Like you said, you just find something online. Ooh.
Time lap. It's a lot easier to drive this car around here than that McLaren in ACC. Because I can at least hit the curbs.
I spin out all the time. I have a real bad lead foot when it comes to sim racing, and I don't know why. And I've been told by my wife that I drive like a grandpa, so apparently that doesn't translate over to real-world driving.
When you can get the wife involved with the sim racing, that's when you know you've won.
That would be amazing. Have 2 sim rigs like side by side.
Our next guest, Dave Cam, Mrs. Dave Cam, is a very prominent sim racer.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I was doing that Lawrence de Soswa League. We were racing at Brands Hatch, my monitor's not on one of those proper monitor mounts. It's on one of those arms that you can just swing across. And the screw came loose, so I don't know if my rig's hitting my desk and it just wobbled it and it knocked it loose. And I had to get my wife in, and she held the monitor for 45 minutes.
What?
Wow.
As I was driving.
That's amazing.
I won. It's just like Mrs. M is the real MVP here.
That is incredible.
I'm starting to wish I'd streamed it now because it would have been hilarious.
Hilarious for those watching.
Well, hilarious for the rest of the grid. Knowing that they got beaten by...
By a guy with his wife holding a monitor for him. That's funny. Oh, there went the bad break point. I don't think I'm able to flip this car, though, like I've flipped almost every single car for the last 3 weeks. So that's probably a good thing.
Oh, I wouldn't... Yeah, don't jinx it.
So my community's picked the most stable car so far.
Yeah,
I mean, how was it driving the Lotus with Jake? Because I can't imagine that was fun. You're used to other things.
Loved it.
That Lotus was my enemy. I could not drive that car.
I loved it so much. It took me a long time to kind of understand it, and I probably didn't understand it at the end, but I felt like I understood it, and I was confident enough to be able to go and drive it, and it was just so satisfying.
You have to forget everything you've ever learned driving downforce cars, and then you have to relearn how to drive very quickly. I just cannot drive those old cars at all.
I can't either, and he told me that I wasn't supposed to be driving on paddles, which I was at the time. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I don't believe that I would have been any better with an H-pattern shifter, but I couldn't get that thing to calm down at all. So I was flying off the track, jumping berms and everything, because we were at... Where were we at? Why can't I remember the track? Where were we, Tom?
Watkins Glen.
Watkins Glen, but like an old classic one.
The
So
old
they're
Yeah, it's a great track.
wide open.
Probably would say it's probably the best track in the United States.
Yeah, I would say it's probably my favourite. Although Laguna Seca I have a real soft spot for.
I think Laguna Seca is sort of oversaturated because of it being in everything.
You don't like Miami? The street course in Miami this year? No?
With the fake marina. At least it's not downtown Chicago.
Yeah, that's true. Miami was the race that I was planning on going to until I saw the ticket prices. So
Oh, yeah.
American ticket prices for F1 are just so outrageous. Unless you're
It's like we go, oh,
millionaire.
sports is so expensive. When you're paying how much?
and then travel and hotel, just everything was just so pricey. Which is unfortunate because, you know, I love F1, but it's not in the cards for me to be able to go attend a race at those costs.
No, a lot of people are probably in the same boat. Well, a lot of people definitely are in the same boat. It's I did think that fake marina was a really odd choice of like optics for that race in terms of like from a marketing perspective. There's kind of an analogy that's screaming at you there, isn't there? Having this big this kind of fake environment for the millionaires to hang out in.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm generalising, but it is typical American sports, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Make it
really
make it
is.
big and grand and over the top.
And unnecessary. Yeah, it definitely is accurate
Yeah,
for American sports.
I was watching like the baseball when I was in Canada, and it's like, buy this pickup truck. It's like, if I buy this pickup truck, will you stop showing me the advert for it?
Did you buy it?
True.
No.
Ooh, almost lost it.
I think my tyres are starting to go off, Bono.
So I slowed down so that I could have a bit of a race with Chris, but I think Chris has definitely got the pace on me here. Did you do anything with fuel or setup, Chris?
Nope.
No, me neither.
I just hit go.
Me too.
Found another half a second. I don't know how.
Oh, there we go. That's straight through the chicane. Who needs to turn if you just go through the grass?
Who's this I'm catching up to?
That'll be me. I'm desperately trying to catch up with
Ooh.
Chris. Ooh, yellow flag.
Just for a moment. I dipped into the grass on that.
Wow. Why am I so slow?
Take some wing off.
Yeah, I think I have too much wing on.
200 miles an hour. Then again, it's not as simple as just taking the wing off because you've got to change the suspension and...
That was wild.
There is a not so insignificant point as well that you are a pro esports driver, and I should not be confused why I'm being overtaken.
Esports.
Esports.
Remember to fold your arms. That's worth another 10th.
Come on.
Ooh.
I've got my game face on.
There's
now.
actually a Reddit post saying, why do all esports players look like they're Hacker Man? It's like, no, I've seen that. But I suppose it's like when you see like your local pub football team and the players on the front row, they're down on one knee.
They're all on the one knee, and it's an incredible display of right angles.
Let's go in here for a bit.
About how good this car actually is.
It's great, isn't it?
So what?
I mean,
what
it was
is
an absolute menace to watch on the TV, but
120.
so boring watching one driver win every week.
Yeah, today was less than exciting. I actually kind of stopped watching towards the end.
Oh, was it? I missed today, so that makes me feel better.
Guy who had best car won race. I mean, that's how it works, isn't it?
Nowadays, yeah.
Kind of is.
Let's see what's
Right.
up with the setup.
That's what I'm going to do as well. So, setup. Go for soft tyres.
Yeah, always pick the softest tyres.
Not
I
80
wasn't.
litres.
But in AC and ACC, the tyre pressures actually matter.
Yeah. Aero.
Whereas Art Factor and iRacing, it's just minimised.
Yeah.
Let's see what that does. I don't know. I just clicked a bunch of things.
Me too. I want to go out with you this time.
No, you're in front of me. Around the corner, I think. Let's see what we got.
Are you already out?
No, I'm pulling out now. You're in front of me.
Oh, I see you. I see you. What did you put your wing down to?
I think I clicked it like twice. I didn't go crazy with it.
He's got traction control. You can just stamp on the throttle mid-corner.
Yeah, it's very forgiving. That's for sure. I normally wouldn't drive an open wheel efficiently for about 10 laps, but this one I kind of get a decent feel for.
Oh, wow.
Is that a 119? Yes.
Ooh. Just a little grass. No big deal.
Unless your tyres are cold now. Ah, I lost all that time. Let's turn the traction control down a bit.
What have you got coming up with Zansho?
Nothing at the minute, really, other than the Petite Le Mans sort of on loan, as it were. But I'll probably sign up for Formula Challenge again when that rolls around, because I had a lot of fun doing that. I was just occupied with other stuff going on. It's trying to find time in an otherwise busy schedule with uploading and that kind of thing to do it, to put the practice time in.
Yeah. Are you quite strict with your upload schedule?
I try to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is a lot.
I mean, I probably would enjoy something a bit more stable than YouTube. So I'm going to probably try and look for something to do outside of uploading videos to keep some cash coming in.
So is it now is it your full-time?
It is, yeah. Which is weird.
Like, probably the dream though when you first started.
No, I think I just fell into it. It's just like, oh, okay, this is happening now. The hard part is because what once was my hobby is now job. It's not overdoing it that you get bored of it.
Right.
Because the second you get bored of it, you just don't want to get up in the morning and do it.
Right.
So you see other people just like, oh, I've got to take a break because I'm just overwhelmed.
Content creation's hard. Like, it's hard to be creative 100% of the time. You know, sometimes like in a normal everyday job, you don't have 100% productivity all the time. But when you're a content creator, now your income directly is affected by whether or not you're going to have a good day in recording. You know, it's just
Then you got to put your faith in whatever algorithm is being run. And then you see people on Twitter talking about it, and it's just like, just forget about the algorithm. Just do your thing. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Just keep going until it does.
yeah, make content that you would watch at the very least, so that the people that are similar to you would be interested.
Because I like that whole Jeremy Clarkson-y, dry, sarcastic sense of humour. So that's what I do. And enough people like it, so it's just like, okay. But if it's like when people say, oh, I'm unsubscribing because of this, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Go.
Okay.
Don't care.
I'm not changing for you.
Yeah.
Do you get that a lot? Is that common?
It is if I don't say Ayrton Senna is the greatest driver of all time, or whoever is the greatest driver of all time, because, you know, people have different opinions and people do take them super seriously.
Right.
And it's like you'll say something about, oh, I'm unsubscribed. It was just an iRacing video. I went 5th to 1st at Spa by Laycom, and the title was Senna, Never Heard of Her. You know, playing off the back of, you know, how Senna went from 5th to 1st at Donington.
Yeah.
And people was like, I'm unsubscribing from you. How dare? It's like, it was a joke.
Wow.
Well, it's a joke. Like, we can chill out a little bit, but we live on the internet now, and you know, you're not allowed to have an opposing view from anyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is a good point.
Did you forget? Grief. So I'm getting 122 is my best time. That's about as far as I can push it so far. Someone's at 119 over there, I see.
119.2. How the hell's he done that?
Wow.
That's fast. Dang.
taken all the fuel out now, so I might be able to go a little bit quicker.
I think I'm just being a little bit too cautious in some of these corners.
Oh no, I'm back in the lead now.
Oh, yeah, he disconnected, I just saw.
With
The best comments, though, on YouTube are the ones where they try to call you out on something you never said.
Oh, yeah, like putting words into your mouth and then
Yeah,
getting at you for it.
Someone shared a good tweet about it. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, if you tweet something along the lines of, "Oh, I love Cocoa Pops for breakfast," someone will say, "Oh, so you hate Crunchy Nut Cornflakes then, do you?" It's like, well, that's not what I said.
Ooh, that was rough. I'm concentrating so hard to stay on the track. I don't want to crash. I want this to be the first episode. Episode 13, the first episode Chris didn't crash.
This is the first episode where we've genuinely not been like ridiculously rubbish at whatever combination we've been set by the guest. So thank you, Aiden. You can come again.
You're making us look way better than we are.
Ah!
I have given you by far the best car that season.
Let's see.
Come on, turn in, you slug.
I think no. That one was a little slower.
What do you have your traction control turn to?
6?
6?
Yeah, because it works backwards in AC.
Oh, you're
The lower the
kidding
number,
me.
the higher the intervention.
Right. I wish I knew that. I've been slowly working mine from 5 down to 1. And I was like, it feels a bit weird. Now I know why. Right.
Whoa.
Oh, there we go.
Well, that's better. Oh my god. My Delta has just lit up green.
Let's try and get a 118.
Ooh, almost did it. Almost spun out.
Oh!
So, Aiden, do you race on a single monitor, triple monitors, or what's your setup look
a
like?
single 32-inch.
Single 32. Okay.
Yeah, curved. Because that's all you can get these days.
I actually quite like the curved, to be honest.
I can't tell the difference.
Have you ever raced in VR?
I have, and I felt sick for the next 4 days.
Oh,
That's
no.
what Jeff McConey raced in VR, and that's one of the things that I was commenting on is how some people they physically can't do it. They just get sick.
I think
That's
it's because you
unfortunate.
expect to be moving, but you're not moving.
Like your brain can't turn off the expectation of your body to experience some G-forces and stuff. And it's just it just makes you feel weird. Have you played VR in other types of games? Is it specifically in the car that makes you sick, or is it VR in general?
I've only tried it in as part of my sort of old job that I occasionally do here and there. I went to a trade show and it was like set the fastest lap in project cars and win something. I can't remember what it was now.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if it's because the way they'd set it up or whatever, but I just like trying to drive around Silverstone and yeah, I think I don't know if it's because I had to take my glasses off as well, but it was just didn't feel right.
That
I think
actually does have a lot to do with it. So if it was blurry or if the frame rate wasn't quite high enough, then that'll make you feel a little queasy in VR as well.
I'd love to try Combat Flight Simulator in VR.
The best game I've ever played in VR personally is Star Wars Squadrons. So it's a flight
that sounds like
simulator,
fun.
of course, but you're in X-Wings and TIE fighters, and like, since I'm such a big Star Wars fan, you know, I'm looking around the X-Wing and TIE fighter just going, oh my gosh, look, you can see all the individual controls and all kinds of cool stuff, and it's just an out-of-this-world experience. It's very cool. So
Death Star
being in,
Trench Run in VR must be amazing.
like, just every single thing you did was just amazing. Because a cool thing about VR, especially like, let's say in the X-Wing, because it's an open top basically, if a TIE fighter flies behind you, you can literally turn your head around and still watch it, just like you see in like the Top Gun movies when Maverick like watches the MiG fly by at 100, Mach 1 or whatever. And it's a surreal experience because, you've dreamed about these kind of things before. So I'm very fortunate that I don't get queasy when I race in VR or even play VR games. The only one time that I did was there's this game called Sariento something, but it's like a ninja game, right? You're just like a ninja with swords, which is really cool because you're slicing and dicing stuff and having fun. But you can jump and then you can do a flip if you put your hands above your head, and the flip made me almost fall over.
Oh no, that sounds horrendous.
I did it once and I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that ever again, because that was the worst experience ever. But VR is very cool, that's for sure. I wonder if maybe if you had one of those 6 degrees of freedom simulators where it like moves you around a little bit, I wonder if that would help with the queasiness.
It might do.
Yeah.
But I've been on one of those things and they're weird as well.
They are.
It feels like someone's grabbing the seat and throwing you around.
Yeah, because you're not moving, so like there's that weird, I'm not moving, but I am moving, kind of strange feeling to it. And then another thing that if the monitors are mounted to the whole rig, like the world doesn't move. If you're driving in a car and you hit a bump, the whole world doesn't move, just the car bounces.
Yeah.
But in those kind of things, like if the monitor's mounted to the whole rig, then the whole world is actually moving with you. So there would be a little bit of a disconnect there, I would think.
I have been in a 747 simulator where it's done that.
That would be very cool. I bet that was a neat experience.
It was crazy. 118.
You got it?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. 118, 975. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Sausage curve.
Did you exit out, Tom, or did you rename yourself?
No, I'm still in.
He is now Gianluca.
I don't see you.
I'm currently P3.
Oh, because, okay. Yeah, because it says FRO because of from. Because you have Tom From, so From is identified as your last name.
I see.
That's why I put GF Chris instead.
Right.
So that
yeah.
CHR is my...
I should do that.
Yeah.
I don't know who Tom Fro is.
Yeah, I was like, who's Fro? What's going on here?
Sounds like one of those made-up names.
But we should stop all racing right now because I'm ahead of Tom in the timetables right now.
I was just
Stop the count.
What's your best time, Chris?
122.599.
Right.
You can definitely beat that.
Uh,
Generally speaking, you are historically faster than I am when we do those races.
This has really, really triggered my competitiveness.
Yeah, you're 123.035, so you're not far off by any means. So what's the command to crash the server? No.
/ next session. Or / restart or whatever it is.
Well, I'm watching Tom on the stream right now, and I don't know if that's going to do it. Off track there a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Huge locker from over in front.
There was somebody in front, and I was trying to move out of their way. but I was in the middle of the track. I didn't know if they were going left or right. So then obviously I went left and they went left.
It's always going to work that way, right? Ooh, big lockups. I wonder if there's a league out there that races this car, because this car is a lot of fun to drive. It's very simple, so it's like you can be very risky with it and push yourself a little farther without really a lot of worry about, putting it into a wall. It's kind of nice.
Might want to lengthen your gears, Tom, because that thing's just topping out.
It really is, isn't it? I'm having to change up so fast.
I don't know what mine. So mine tops out at 203.
So have you tried? Do you race F1 at all? F1 20? Is it 22 now?
Last one I bought was 2019.
Oh, okay. So no. I was curious if anyone's played crossplay. I'm really wondering how that's performing.
I don't know. They just seem every time you turn on social media, it's just like, oh, it's bugged.
Yeah. Actually, somebody came into our chat earlier and said the exact same thing.
Okay. That's a bummer because, you want to be able to race in a league that has the most drivers as options. And obviously it would be better if you could have PS, you could have Xbox, and you can have PC all racing together. Because, in the end, a lot of us are racing wheels anyways. The one thing that would get a little hairy is controller versus wheel. Now, have you raced on a controller ever, Aiden?
When I
More
had
recently, not like as a kid.
Recently, no.
Yeah, I think I started on a controller, of course, because Gran Turismo on PS2 or whatever.
Yeah, I think F1 2013, F1 2014 was the last time I played on a pad.
Because there's always that.
I think I only do Wreckfest on a gamepad because you're not.
Oh, that one makes sense.
You're just crashing in that one. You're not really doing anything.
You're not really. I guess air quotes racing or anything. So yeah, that makes more sense.
Everything I think the other thing is I'm so used to AC, R Factor, iRacing, Race Room, all these in inverted commas proper sims.
Yeah.
And then trying to get my head around the physics they use in F1. I mean, I can't say they're wrong because I'm not a Formula One driver, but they're definitely geared to be more accessible, so that people with a pad can use them and people with a. But there are people that use pads in R Factor 2, and I'm like, how?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the All Star battle, Jacques Villeneuve used one.
Oh wow!
And he got the settings off Lazaros Philippakos, who races top split, or has raced top split virtual endurance championship with a pad.
That's
and you can see the onboards. You can see the wheel.
Like
it's not smooth because he's
being jittery because of the okay.
But he's still rapid. I'm like, how are you doing that? Because if I tried to do it now, I'd spin. Because without ABS and traction control and stuff like that, like how?
Yeah, you wouldn't. I mean, you have just the rumble of the gamepad itself, so you wouldn't have any of the real cues like we were talking about for force feedback. I feel like that would be very difficult. Now, obviously, I've raced on pad before, and like Need for Speed and those games where they're kind of casual games just for fun or whatever, and you're driving cars around cities. Normally, I would use a pad in those just because, well, it just kind of feels easier and more casual there.
There was somebody who, I think they raced in FSR. I don't know if they raced in the VEC as well, but they went from a pad to a wheel, and they ran the wheel with no force feedback.
Oh wow!
Because they were so used to not having force feedback that when they went to force feedback, it just felt too weird for them, so they just turned it off.
So, like, all of their breaking points and all of the knowledge that they've known of the track was getting overridden by the physical feel of the wheel, I bet. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, and again, you watch them and it's like, how? So I've driven them, my force feedback's conked out, and it's like, no, can't catch a slide.
Yeah.
You overturn into a corner.
Yeah,
because there's no resistance.
The only time I've ever used a non-force feedback wheel in the recent times are like you go to the arcades and you're playing those arcade games that it doesn't matter anyways because you're not really racing for real. Like you can hit the wall and you just bounce off of it anyways, but it's about it.
They actually, there's a town in the southwest of England called Weston-super-Mare. On the pier there, they've got a full 6 degrees of motion setup.
Wow.
And it's like 10 quid a go, but it's you get to drive a V10 type car and you get thrown around in it and all that stuff. You get about 5 minutes or something like that, but it's incredible.
That's amazing.
So next time I go down there, I might have to try and set the lap record because it's.
Why not?
Now I know what a direct drive wheel feels like and what proper pedals feel like, and I don't know if you win anything, but it'd be worth it to try it out.
Yeah, just for some fun. I'd agree.
Yeah.
You know, your statement about F1, I guess we'll call it Codemasters F1. You know, the official F1 game. I really agree
EA now, isn't it?
Is it EA now?
Yeah, EA owns Codemasters.
Yeah, that's true. In that game, it does feel more arcadey. Tom has tried to get me into it a couple different times. I tried in 2021, and then on the most recent game, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I played it for a while, and luckily Steam gives you if you play it for less than 70 or not 72, if you play it for less than 2 hours, you can refund it. And I was like, you know what, I'm just not enjoying this, so I did end up refunding that game. But the overall feel of all of the open wheels and AC trump any other game for me at the moment. The Formula, the RSS Race Sim Studios one, the one you can purchase,
that's great.
Is amazing.
That 2000 car they do is one of my favourite cars in sim racing.
That car,
it's. I mean, like I said, I don't know what the real one feels like, but
right.
You get that sort of idea of if you boot it too hard, you will spin.
Yeah. I like the challenge of that car. So while I do end up crashing it and putting it into walls and spinning it a lot, the challenge of sim racing is kind of what keeps me there, is because you can master one car and then go on the same track, just switch cars, and then you have to remaster the track again, and it's just a lot of fun to continually try to be better than yourself. I'm a time trial kind of a guy, so I really like to enter into there's a couple Facebook groups I'm a part of, and then there's also like a World Sim Series where you can do just time trials. You're not on the track with anyone else. You just sign in, do your time trials. You could have like a week to do it. I used to run one for Grid Finder where it was every single week of the F1 season, I would set it up so that you're in the RSS car on the same track that we'll be watching on the weekend. And that was a lot of fun.
I saw those. There's other people giving it a go, and it's like hot lapping isn't my thing.
Yeah,
I know like some of the leagues they do, or like the official leagues run by the developers of some of these games. It's a hot lap qualifier, and I'm like, oh, do I have to? But it's the only way of. Then you get a grid filled with hot lappers that will just crash after 2 laps because they don't know what tires are supposed to feel like after that amount of time.
It's so true. I like the hot lapping stuff only because for a lot of the time it's not really set in stone when I'll be able to race. So it's nice to just be like, oh, it's Tuesday and I don't have anything going on for the family. I'll just hop in some hot laps, throw some times together, try to get to the top. And it's a kind of a cool experience. I enjoy that.
You ever done the dirt rally stuff?
I haven't. I've been thinking about that recently because you're all by yourself. You just do your runs and put your times together. And one thing that I have never been able to master, at least on pavement, I've never been able to master drifting in really any game except for like Forza Horizon, but that's massively assisted, of course, to be accessible. And it would be really cool to get into dirt racing. I have Dirt 2.0, I want to say, or which one is the one that's still played a lot, but it's a really old game from Steam. It's like, I don't think it's not the Dirt game. It's Dirt Rally 2.0 or something. No, it's not Richard Burns. I've heard of that one as well. Actually, I have my Steam up right here.
WRC 10 is still quite popular.
WRC I've heard of as well. Where is this game? Dirt Rally 2. So yeah, it's Dirt Rally 2.0 is the one that I downloaded, and because it was like $5 or something like that. Super
Yeah, I
cheap
think I bought
to
it
get
cheap as
into.
well.
And the first time I got in there, I'm like, okay, this is cool. Let's start the race. I start driving, and then the spotter starts talking. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. What is
Yeah.
going on here?
Listening to a bloke shout directions at you, and I'm like, what?
I'm just like, first off, I don't know what any of this stuff means. Second, be quiet. I'm trying to drive here. But it definitely is a skill that I would love to master. I do have like one of those cheap eBay USB handbrake things that are made big giant things of metal.
Yeah.
With a magnetic like hall sensor on it, and I have one of those e-brakes that I just never mount up because I don't really drive with the necessity for an e-brake. But I've always wanted to master the drift because there's something about seeing a car go through a corner sideways that just is cool looking, you know? It's a very interesting skill.
And I've tried to do rallying with this Formula rim,
Ooh,
and
wow,
it's
yeah.
just. I mean, I use the hand clutch as the handbrake, and you try and do it one-handed.
Yeah.
And so I've got to get me a round rim before I try joining any rally leagues because it's
Just
I'm
get one of
gonna
those,
break
you know,
my
those
wrists.
the truck driver like things that have the little ball on it, so you can
Oh yeah,
just revolve the wheel around. Just tack one of those onto your Formula wheel and use that for drifting. That would work perfectly, right?
my uncle's got something like that on his car because he can't use his legs, so he's with the hand
Oh, wow.
controls and all that stuff. So
Oh wow, okay.
It is weird
watched
watching.
Grand Tour. When James May hurt his arm once, they gave him the turtle squeaky toy and all kinds of different ones on that one when they were doing one of their excursions. That was.
I need to go back and watch some of that because it's.
Every so often, so they don't do Grand Tour anymore. There's a new special coming out because they only do specials now, and that's it. And it's really far in between, like 6 months or more between each one. And I still go back and I watch from like season 1 through all the seasons. Just like during work, I'll have it on like another monitor, just kind of playing through. And man, it's so unfortunate that show is over now because I think it's the three of them that I love a little bit more than just the show itself, because obviously they've tried to, like when they moved on from Top Gear, they tried to put some new hosts in Top Gear. And while it still had the same bones and structure, it didn't have the same feel with the new hosts.
Yeah, I think it worked with Chris Harris, Rory Reid, and Matt LeBlanc, but now they've got
Isn't Dak?
they've still got Harris, but they've got Freddie Flintoff or Andrew Flintoff, the ex-cricketer. He's funny, but they've also got Paddy McGuinness on, who just ruins it for everybody, and that kind of lets it down a bit. But I think it's kind of like you look at the three of them now. Clarkson's 62 now, I think. Hammond's in his 50s, May's in his late 50s, so they're at that point where it's just like, how long can we sustain this?
Yeah, and then the things that they were doing are just. They just physically can't do a lot
But I think the problem with, I think it was actually good that they left, because I mean, I like as a teenager, I loved Top Gear. It was like all you talked about at school on Monday morning.
Sure.
You know, it's like, do you see that Bugatti racing against that little plane? And it's like, you know, it's like the Bugatti Veyron was the thing. But when it got to just before Clarkson had the punch up with the producer, it had gone like WWE. It's like you could see it happening. You're just like, all right, he's going to get put through the table now. Oh, he's kicking out of that finisher or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a cartoon now. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it is very, very scripted for sure. And they even actually do a kind of a meme episode in Grand Tour where they do an unscripted, but it's still, you can tell that there's still scripted parts of it.
Yeah.
And they try to point out the fact that like the reason they do it scripted is so that we have good content, but sometimes it gets a little on the edge of, okay, well, that was predictable too much kind of a thing. Yeah. I missed that show, but I still... Tom, how many times are you going to go off the track? Sorry.
It's because I'm a 10th. Wait, you said you were on a 122.5, right?
Yeah.
So I've just managed to get a 122.588, and I'm incredibly competitive. And in my head, I'm like, if it's a 588, then it's more likely than not that Chris is faster. So I've been pushing really, really fucking hard.
Almost exactly a 10.
Well, normally after we do a bunch of the racing, we go into viewer questions or listener questions, and it doesn't seem like many people posted anything in the chat to ask you, which Tom actually already did ask the one where, do you prefer commentary, sim racing, or making videos?
There was one actually, Chris, which was, why is Wolverhampton your favourite place in the world?
Was that Ed Trevelyan Johnson that asked that?
It was.
Ah. I live in a town called Walsall, which is just north of Birmingham in sort of midwestern England, and Walsall and Wolverhampton, like football, they're right, and it's just Wolverhampton's an absolute hole. I went there for my university graduation. I was just like, I'm just going to spend all day in the pub. So I don't want to be here any longer than necessary, and I hate driving around it. It looks like Vegas after a nuclear war at Christmas.
What?
But it's
that's an interesting mental picture there. Okay.
It's mostly the football, but it really is horrible.
Well, okay.
It's not a nice place to be. Says the guy who lives in Warsaw.
Well, Tom, do you have any closing questions or anything you'd like to cover?
I think he's too busy lapping faster than you.
And wall.
Oh, God.
Well, Aiden, of course, we absolutely appreciate you being on the show and joining us today. That was a fun car. I feel like I want to find a league that actually races that one, because that one is, I don't know, I don't want to say casual enough. It's forgiving enough to where, like, you could just have a Wednesday night league where you don't really have to, practice hours and hours and hours to be able to be, somewhere reasonable within the grid. So that was a lot of fun.
If only there was a website where you could search for leagues.
I feel like I'll find one soon. No. Aiden, what do you have going on, and what do you want to share with the community out there? Any big races? Any super interesting videos you want to point them to?
The thing is, though, I don't know what I'm actually doing for a video until the day I actually make the video. So I just wake up in the morning and go, "Yep, that'll do," and I'll do it. It's all part of the. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Sure.
But in terms of racing, I might be doing some rallying soon. With the guys from VMO that do the BTCC league that I do the stewarding for. But that's pretty much the only involvement I have with sim racing at the minute, because, like I say, I did the Potato Nation GT3 league and got massive burnout from the amount of. I did 20 weeks straight, pretty much. I think I only missed one race. That was because I got set on fire. But the when we had the little house fire back in April or something like that. But yeah, sort of like midway through that season, I was just like, I might as well just finish this. And then, so I think the next thing I will have, like, for a stream, will be Petit Le Mans in October with
very cool, with
Lawrence's mates over there, just for a bit of banter, really, and then just see what happens with Formula Challenge next year, if that all lines up properly with what I'm doing, and maybe get back on that and actually stream it this time. So I think I'm just in a little bit of a break phase at the minute, so you kind of got me at the wrong time in that sense.
No problem. Understandable.
I'll probably have something to do with, like, those history lessons with, like, like I did with Le Mans, modern Le Mans, old Le Mans. Maybe do something along the lines of, I don't know, maybe modern F1 car at old Spa. Actually, I've already done that one, haven't I? But yeah, something along those lines will probably be out soon. Or could Formula One have survived at some sort of tight and twisty street circuit from 1955 or something like that? So there'll be something along those lines. Maybe use sim racing to tell the history of a particular car or something that's in a Assetto Corsa and drive that around a bit. But yeah, I'm sort of in that because it's the summer holidays as well, and my wife's a teacher, so you're just sort of trying to spend time with her and all that stuff. But maybe when she goes back to work in September and I'm free at home all day, try not to use too much energy because the prices have been jacked up and all that stuff. But yeah, I'll have something eventually. I think my audience isn't really a sim racing audience, so they can survive without it. But I'm always looking to do something new, because that's what I started doing YouTube properly with after I jacked in the music. So I'll have something eventually.
Okay. Well, if you want to go check out some of Aiden's content, some of the old stuff and some of the stuff that you just heard that he's thinking about making, he's Aiden Millward on YouTube, and he's also Aiden Millward with an A. Yes, not Aiden. It's Aidan Millward on YouTube and also on Twitter. Tom, do you have any last things to say?
No, thank you very much for coming. Our first commentator, sim racer, content creator, all in one. So it's been a pleasure.
Definitely has. Well, thank you everyone for coming to this episode and listening to this episode of Sim Sundays presented by Grid Defender. Once again, we're sponsored by Trak Racer. So if you're looking to upgrade your rig, or just get off that desk mounted setup, even though Aiden has proved that you can win races with those desk-mounted setups, go on over to trakracer.com. We will see you next weekend. This episode will be available on Apple, Google Podcasts, and Spotify next Sunday. Thanks all. See ya.